Market watchers, we have some cards for you. Whether it's the meta staples that are too hot to hold, or some choice tech options that you want to be on the lookout for before they spike in price, this is a market watch you will not want to miss. And the first card on today's list is a card that has been taking the metagame by storm, and that is Typhoon. And now when we're looking at the price of the OTS1 super rares, these have actually seen quite the increase in price. They're looking at about $9 a piece if you want a single copy of the super rare Typhoon. And now some players might be curious as to what's going on with this pricing, and that is because this is one of the main cards cited against the Blue Eyes deck right now. And the reason players have been teching Typhoon is because when they activate their True Light, not only are you able to rid it off the board, preventing them from plussing, but you then will wipe their entire board of monsters due to True Light's ability. And it is for these reasons that we've seen Typhoon actually in many players' side decks going against the Blue Eyes matchup. That is why if players are looking for a nice tech card against that deck, this is something they'll be looking into, as well as if you have a few of these versions lying around, do know that they have some value right now. And I mean, it could go up a little bit, but it's more likely that we will see a reprint of this card and another holographic version. And we do have some ultra rares of the Typhoon, but unlike the OTS pack, they're really not holding the same amount of value. They're looking at about 25 cents, 50 cents piece. And again, if you can find them from one seller, they're like 34 cents per one, okay? So for the OTS versions of the Typhoon, definitely something to be keeping in mind, especially if you already have these copies to be on the way to trade out. But the second card on today's list is a card we actually mentioned in our last membership video, so you should definitely be checking that out, and that is Infernity Archfiend. And now, whether you've seen our recent ban list prediction or our membership market watch, you'll know that I do believe Infernities will be getting love in the near future, whether that's with Launcher going past 1 or new support in general. And right now, the price of Archfiend is actually worth looking into because for a single copy, you're looking between about $5 to $6 after that shipping kicks in if you just get one from one seller. And that's a pretty good price for an Infernity Archfiend, okay? Because we know that if Launcher goes past 1, this card will go up. And then if Infernities get any love at all, this deck could definitely be meta relevant. If you played back in the day, you will know Infernities were almost one of the kind of postmodern decks, kind of like E-Dragon, that led us from just passing the turn back and forth into direct, just straight combo lines, and Infernities were the best at it. So if Konami does drip some support to the Infernity archetype, then we know Archfiends will be spiking in price, especially if we get Launcher past 1. So to the Infernity lovers out there, definitely be picking up your Infernity Archfiends Quarter Century Secret way before their prices increase. And that brings us into our third card, which was another feature on our last membership video, and that is Eradicator Epidemic Virus. And yes, in Quarter Century Secret. And now, we have not seen Eradicator in the metagame for quite some time, and that is actually going to be reflected in the price, because for $13, you can get yourself a Quarter Century Secret Rare Eradicator. And honestly, I do not believe the price of this card is going to stay as low as it is right now. Because as we know, during certain formats, whenever Labyrinth and other dark decks become really good in the metagame that can just set this outright, we see that it is abused, and it's abused pretty hard. We've had many times on feature matches, Eradicator get flipped up, the opponent's spells just get wiped out completely, and then the match ends right there. So before it goes up in price, definitely pick up your copies of Eradicator Epidemic Virus, because other cards in the Quarter Century Secret, even older ones for the GOAT formats and Edison, are much higher in price than the virus. And we know in the future, this price will be much higher. But this is the perfect segue to go in the next card, and that is Primite Lordly Load. And now, these are $70 a piece for secret rares, and they're going to get a reprint, so if you have some copies, you know what to do. But the real reason I'm bringing them up is we were telling you to pick these cards up when they were $3 a piece. And if you didn't see that, that is because it was in the membership market watch. So if you were a member, you would have known to be picking up Primate Lordly Loads at $3 a piece. And I know not everyone can be a member, but for those who can, we make it well worth your while. We will give you many cards that are going to be shooting up in price in the future so that you know you get your value back for supporting the channel. So if you want me to tell you about cards like $3 Primary Literally Loads, definitely become a member to the channel. But let's get to the market watch. Alistair the Invoker has been spiking in price. And now, this is not just because you can link summon it into the Blue Eyes, so that's some insane pluses, but we are potentially going to be getting Alistair the Invoker support in the future. We saw the Magistus kind of have a little lore with this, and it would not surprise players if we get more support for Alistair in the future. But for the prices, they're literally about $13 to $14 if you want a near mint first edition, and that is much higher than it was just a couple months ago when it was about that $5 to $6 price range. So Alistair the Invoker, and again, we've been seeing it teched in some Blue Eyes, maybe with some Primates. You summon it, get the invocation, link it right into the Blue Eyes Dragon, and you're off to the races. So Alistair the Invoker, definitely a card that we've seen spiking in price, and I could see it getting a reprint again at some point in the future. So if you're holding on to some of their secrets, they do have a little room to grow. I'm not going to lie, but it wouldn't surprise me if the Konami does slap this in one of the reprint sets, maybe even in something like Quarter Century Stampede. But going on to the next card is actually one I'm very excited for because it's kind of my favorite monster to the max. And that is Magician of Black Chaos Max. And now I know this might seem a little random, but it's not. We're actually seeing multiple buyouts of this card, and the price has spiked from about 75 cents to about 89 cents here, $1.50 there, but once you get to the solo sellers, you're paying closer to that $3 mark per copy. And a lot of this is because with the Blue Eyes deck, kind of like with Alistair the Invoker, we're seeing players include the Black Chaos Max. With Majesty of the White Dragon, you can actually utilize that, blow up your opponent's board, banish it during their turn, summon the Chaos Max, and cut them off monster effects. And with Chaos Max actually being a level 8 monster, just tribute to Blue Eyes, summon it right then and there. And then that's actually aside from it adding spells every turn when it beats over a monster. So it seems players are realizing just how good Chaos Max is and how easy it is to include it in the Blue Eyes deck. But moving on to our next card is Eldritch the Golden Lord Quarter Century Secret alternate art. And now we've seen that Eldritch is actually getting some support in the near future, and this is many fans of the archetype extremely happy, including myself. Back to back, D-Maka and Eldritch going up, it's good time. But we're actually seeing the prices of this card reflect that. They're about $16 a piece, and a little bit ago, they were about $5. So we've seen a triple in this card's price, and it actually can go a little higher. And I think at one point we did see a buyout, so they looked like they were higher, but right now they're back down to that 15s, and again, I think they could go up. But we also have the original Eldritch art, and right now they're sitting at about $10, $11, $12 a piece. Once you start scrolling down, they quickly turn into that $15 mark as well. So if you don't care about the artwork, maybe it's the time to be picking up the regular art, because again, once the actual support hits, especially if this card becomes meta or becomes techable in multiple decks, the Quarter Century of Eldritch will definitely increase in price, because once you're running Eldritch in your deck, you gotta put them in full bling. It's just what you have to do. It's lore, it's canon, you need it. So Eldritch, definitely worth looking into, and if you have them and you got them on the low, you're looking pretty good. But keeping on the Golden Lord hype, we got Eldritch the Mad Golden Lord, and that is the secret rare from Blazing Vortex. And again, with the announcement of the new support, especially since the Fusion summons this card directly out from the extra deck, we've seen an increase in its price as well. They were like $1.02s, and now they're about $4, $5, close to $6 a piece if you want a single copy of this card. And some of the players that are looking like they play multiples in the extra deck, because the other Fusion is actually extremely easy to bring out, and once it leaves the field, you summon the Mad King. So here he is. So for the Eldritch fans out there, if you don't have your Mad Golden Lord already, you're going to be looking at about $5. I think it will get a reprint in the future, honestly, so if you really need one, it's pretty there, and there's also other copies. But secret rares going up in price, and honestly, again, maybe a little higher. That's kind of to be seen. And now this leads us to our next cards, which have also increased in price, but these might be a little too hot to hold. And the first one is Bestial Druisworm. And now for the Prismatic Secret Rare, we're actually seeing that they have quite the price at about $28 to $30 a piece. And that's actually pretty crazy, because when you look back all the way in a year ago, you've seen they were about $10 to $11 a piece. So that's really good. A nice little triple right there. So for the Prismatic Secret, $30. And if you want the supers, they're like $24 a piece as well. So whichever version you have, these are actually hot right now. And it would not surprise me if we actually see this card included in the next quarter century Stampede, because of how popular it is in the metagame and honestly how much players need it. This card is due for a reprint. So whether it's in Stampede or another reprint set, kind of a one-off, we would see immediately the price of these cards go down, and go down drastically, especially if it's in Stampede. If that happens, these cards' prices are going to tank. So if you were holding out on Druisworms and you can somehow get rid of them, sooner might be better than later, because again, once this card gets a reprint, these prices are going to start tanking. And if it's a super hollow reprint like Ulti or anything like a Stampede or Quarter Century, these prices are going to evaporate into nothing, I guarantee it. So if you have them, get rid of them. And again, next card on the list that you might want to be on the lookout to get rid of is Chaos Angel. And now I love this card. I honestly need an Ulti copy of this card, so that's not why I'm saying this. It's because this is another prime target to be reprinted in something like a Quarter Century Stampede. And yes, it has an Ulti print, and that is nice. But if it gets put in a Stampede and you get that second Ulti print, which I'm kind of tired of them doing, as well as a Quarter Century, and that would destroy the OTS. And now if you have an OTS copy, they're about $43, $45. The lower you go, they're about $47 to $50 a piece. That's really good. And then if you have any of the other copies, whether that's the Secret or the Prismatic Secret, they're literally like $30 for whichever one. So again, if you have Chaos Angel, there is serious value in this card still. But that is only until the next reprint. And again, I do believe when Konami puts this in a reprint set, it's going to be Quarter Century. It's going to get all the rarities, and much like all the other boss monsters like Baron and IP, everything like that, the prices will just shatter to nothing, and you will be wishing you got rid of it sooner. So again, if you're holding out on any version of Chaos Angel and you can somehow part with it sooner rather than later, because again, this card is too hot to hold. But if you are getting rid of cards like Chaos Angel or the Druisworm, then you have some serious leverage in your collection. And what better way to utilize it than becoming a member to the channel, so you know when to pick up cards like $3 Lordly Loads well before they spike in price. But we also have some market watches flashing up above with some cards that have already spiked on them, but a few gems players have not found yet. And as always, most importantly, stay safe, have a good night, and suck it, nerds.